about a forbidden love affair. So we are speaking on a forbidden love affair, or is it right or is it wrong? That is the topic of discussion. Last week we reviewed of how the relationship got started. We talked about the ages of the couples. He is 18, Theo is 18, and Miss Patricia, she is 32. The fly felt like there's nothing wrong with the relationship because he was a he was adult, but society felt like it was wrong because she was 32 and she was also his teacher. But some things that we missed last week and share, you highlighted upon it about being selfish because of the family aspect of it. And we were also discussing if Theo had some things to lose. If we noticed in the beginning of the book, Theo main thing was set him off in life because he heard a conversation that no one knew he ever heard. He heard the conversation of between his mother and his father, where his father denied him and told his mother that she chose another family over him. So it was his plight to be a better man. So Theo felt like he had the basketball team. He had something to prove to them, as well as all his teammates was depending on him to get college scholarships because if he got one, the rest of the team got one. Then he entered into this forbidden relationship. And even though she did not ask, he wanted to be a man to her. So this week we are going to pick up on the aspect of, in actuality, what makes a man a man? Is it age or is it really his values?
Well, I think both age and value. And even in this case where this, I know eventually he's going to turn out to be a great man, but at this point in the book, he's a high school student. So regardless of his age, he's a child because he's still in high school. So your age is a requirement and your character is a requirement also.
That is true. Anyone else?
I definitely don't think it's age, because I've known some 40-year-olds that act like they're 16. And I know some 20-year-olds just having a conversation with them. You would think that they were well into their adulthood and had been through some things. So I definitely think it's character.
Okay. Anyone else?
First of all, what makes a man is his gender. His gender. He born male or female. Okay, that's we consider you grow up to be a man, you are a man gender. As far as you're looking at being a provider or a person of character, a person of integrity, a person that you can count on, that keep your word, that's what I feel makes a man a man.
I think Miss McGee highlighted on some things as well, because we do look at age, and if we look at the dictionary version or society, it does say a man is a man, and actually about his gender, but their values make him more of a man. Because I honestly think, even though Theo was young in the book, or just like she said, you can speak to some gentlemen and they're 20 years old and they have more wisdom than some 40 years old. I think it just depends on when they decide to grow up, what they value and the things that they want. I think it can be vice versa with women. In the book, it's kind of complex because of the title she held toward him. And we know even in most jobs don't even want you to have relationships. So I think with Theo, do you guys think that Theo was actually good for her, or it was just temptation?
Well, you don't know who's good for who. And you don't know who's good for you until you get off into the relationship to find out who's who. So was he good for her? Only they know what they good for each other. it's not for us to see was he good for her or bad for her. Are they compatible? Do they feel that he's good for me or I'm good for him?
He was a child. She had absolutely no business sleeping with a high school student. You wait till he graduate high school, then you sleep with him. I mean, it's just out of the question. So no, at that point in the book, you don't know. She was not good for him. He was not good for her. He was in high school and she was his teacher, regardless of, any of that. She had no business having sexual relations with her student while he was in high school.
But that situation, that kind of thing been going on for so long. We didn't hear about it when we were coming up, because back then older people didn't gossip around their children. Now, I'm not saying that make it right, but it's been going on for so long and people just turn their head the other way. It was going on in the family, incest in the family. That was wrong as well. That has never been my cup of tea. I've never been attracted to a student or a child. That's not my cup of tea. I don't know, some people have different strokes, but he was a child, and as the law considers that you're not grown until you 21. So he was just 18 and still in school. But what about if he had been 18 and a dropout? Would that have made a difference?
Good question.
Yes, it would have made a difference. Yes. That's no different than working with inmates. I mean, you have a position of being a leader in that case.
Right.
Okay, but 18 is eight.
Go ahead.
But 18 is 18. Now, if we're gonna look at, because he was 18 and in school and she was his teacher, or he could have been 18, a dropout, and she was his teacher before he dropped out. So what's the difference?
It's still wrong. Even if he was an 18-year-old kid that she had never met, that's still wrong. Because the 18-year-old is still a kid, even by law. Yeah, they say you're grown at the age of 18. No, you're not. You're still thinking like you're 12 years old in most cases. So you're not an adult. You probably want to act like an adult, but that's not right. Because my 20-year-old still call me, and my 20-year-old married. 21, he's 21. And he's a married man, a married kid. And he still called me. And he wasn't old enough to get married because he was still a kid at 21. So that still doesn't make it right, in school or out of school.
I think if we look at it legalistically, and if we look at it by the bylaws that you for school, it's wrong because she was his teacher and she held a title and she held a certain honor. She was supposed to be a mentor to him. He had no business in her bed, regardless of his maturity, because in all honesty, when we look at it, Theo is mature. He does not call on his mom. Him and his mom, they have teamwork, and his mother raised him to be a man because an absent parent was in the household. We give people a lot of labels, but if he was out of school, if he was a dropout, honestly, it would make a difference because society wouldn't care. Society would not have made an issue about it if there was an 18-year-old dropout. It was going to be a bigger issue because there was an 18-year-old prospect that had the potential to go pro, and he was a legacy in Florida. But like you said, Ms. McGee, you have some of them, and it's just like their kids when they still get married because they still have to call back and ask you for different things. And if you look at it in the Bible tells you when a man gets married, he's supposed to leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife. They're supposed to do things together. But we still, even as young women, as being adults, we still call on our parents, and we're in our 30s and 40s asking for advice and help because we don't know.
Do that make us mature? If we call on our parents for money at 30s or 40s, does that make us immature? Make them immature and not grown?
I think it depends on the situation. Some call on their parents if you mismanage your funds, and I think if you're still acting like a child and you can blow your money and do everything else, no, honestly, I don't think you have no business calling on your parents. If you can waste money and do what you want to do with it, then no, you have the behavior of a child. You may be an adult, but that's the behavior of a child versus you're calling on your parents because you are paying bills and you got in a bind because you just can't make rent or something this month. I think it depends on the situation.
Absolutely.
We have also been introduced to Tony, and as Patricia describes herself, then we see the roles of Tony.
Paige.
What does everyone think about Tony? Tony is Patricia's best. Yes, she's Patricia's best friend.
Yeah. I don't think nothing bad about Tony. Tony's stuff was what happened to Tony was just accident. Tony got caught up in a situation where a psycho was involved. And it was just freaked out how the girl threw a brick through the window and it just hit on the head. It was just a freak thing. Now, but Tony had a husband and Tony had a family. I just, I don't know. I just feel bad for Tony, how she died. But I think Tony just decided to just have fun for one time, and man, that happened.
I think it shows you a dual roles, and I'm sorry, I've been calling Paige name wrong. Her name is Paige, and I've been calling her Patricia, thinking about her last name. I do apologize, guys. I think Tony wanted to be loved. I think her and Paige had the same dynamics of friendship because she wanted to be loved. And like she said, she got caught up in one of those moments where she just wanted to have fun and step outside of herself. It's like you always have to be cautious with everything that you do. And I think in the book, that's what we're realizing. Even though we are adults, we do make childish decisions sometimes. And I think that's what it's showing. Like, just because we're adults, sometimes we mix fun and pleasure up and we get caught up in the moment.
What they said, Tony was doing what you call a sneak. And the sneak turned out to be, it cost her. It cost her her life.
Okay, well, I don't think that Tony was necessarily caught up in the moment. I think she was more hurt about what her and her husband participated in with the swinging situation, which changed her mindset on a lot of things. And yes, the guy from school or whatever, he intrigued her and he interested her. So therefore, yes, she was willing to step outside of her marriage because she felt like what her husband wanted and the pleasure that he wanted, that's not what she wanted. And he drugged her and everything just to get her doing. So she was just so confused and so hurt about that, which is why she went to the other situation. Yes, the other situation was messed up, but I don't think it was more based on that she was just willing to creep because she did love her husband. I think that participating in the swinging situation just messed up their marriage. Therefore, she was willing to step out and try something else. my opinion.
I think she was just mad. She was just mad at what he did, and he drugged her. But she didn't have to, because he was mad. She was mad, and he drugged her. She didn't have to do what she did. She could have talked about it, and there was some more alternatives. She did. She went with that little young guy. He was a young guy, and she was an older person. She went with that young guy because she wanted to go with that young guy. And it didn't have one thing, it had nothing to do with the other. Because she knew better. She was a grown, mature woman, married with children.
True, but have you noticed, even in society, when a woman makes a mistake, we get punished harder. But versus when it comes to a man, it's an excuse. It's like, I see what Belinda's saying in the situation, because it's like she loved her husband, so she went against something that she believed in because she wanted to make the marriage work. And often in marriages, they say we have to compromise. So it's like when you get to a point you have to compromise, it's like, what do you compromise? But it's like with Tony, it's like, did she really want to do it, or did hurt or pain drive her there? Because we always have this conception. People always say, well, words, actions, and it's like, well, words hurt, but actions hurt a little bit harder. It's more of an impact, and that was an action. He physically drove her to do something that she really didn't want to do, and he knew she didn't want to do it. So it was like they would be on a point of talking. So I think she stepped outside of herself because she still needed that feeling where she wanted to be loved.
Yes.
But on the other hand, she knew what was taking place when she met that couple. She knew what was going down. She knew what that couple was about. She knew what the whole scenario was about. Now, she wasn't dumb. She ain't gonna, I ain't gonna let her be portrayed as dumb and naive and didn't know.
I would just agree this was a new couple.
She knew the deal. She knew what that couple was out.
But this was a new couple. This is like a new set of people that came to dinner. And if she even thought that she knew about it, it still wasn't the whole thing that they were going to do until he drugged her and made her loosen up and do all the extra stuff. It's not the same couple that they initiated in the first beginning that, yes, she knew it. I think they said this was a different set of people that came up in the picture that they agreed to have dinner with. So even if she didn't get drugged, I don't think she would have went with it, because her mindset was always that this is not what I want to do. They had to drug her in order for her to do it, period. So
now
she and willing to talk to conversation because of their mate. Yes, but that still don't mean that I agree with it and I want to do it. Yes, okay, well, this is my husband. Yes, okay, we can talk about it, but that don't mean I want to agree with it. So even if she did know and she decided to go to dinner just to talk about it, that still does not mean that, yes, I agree with it. I explored the option because you want me to just sit here to talk about it. But that doesn't mean drug me. He knew she wasn't going to go for it. So therefore he drugged her in order for her to, adventure it, period. So he still had a plan in mind because he knew she was going to say no. So in order for her to get it done, he drugged her.
when she was out there on the dance floor with him, and he was rubbing on her, holding her, whispering in her ear, trying to kiss her, she could have changed the narrative right then. She could have left. She could have told her husband, listen, this is what's going on. We need to leave. So it wasn't a right thing. It wasn't a right for him to drug her and to force her into doing what, she did, but she had an opportunity to leave before that even took place.
And he was rubbing her thighs and stuff under the table before she even got drugged. Because they was off in a corner, off in a part by themselves, and she saw her husband on the dance floor with that man's wife and how they were doing. So she knew something was going on. Now, she wasn't blind. She just stayed there because I don't know why she stayed there. I guess she was in disbelief. But that drug she knew what was going on before that drug was put in her drink. And she had every opportunity to escape. She had a way of escape. She just didn't take it.
Yes, she did. And you're right. She did have a way of escaping, but I think sometimes I think she was probably in the headspace of, yeah, this is my husband. I'm going to entertain him because I want to be with him and to satisfy him with every aspect of everything that he wants. So I'm going to stay here and let this play out. I don't think if she knew she was going to be drugged, she would have left. I think she stood there and went along with everything that was going on in that club just to satisfy her husband because she wanted to ultimately make her marriage work. I think her back was against the wall and all she could see was, this is my husband, and she wanted to make it work. I don't think she would have went along if she knew he was going to drug her.
Yeah, but don't get mad.
She wouldn't have gone along with that. Because that was something that she didn't want to do. I mean, she didn't want to do that. So, right. We all know she wouldn't have gone along with her husband wanting to drug her, but we also know that she had a way out before even the drug part even came into play. So she had a way out.
I agree with what everyone is saying, but I think it's to a point, like, and this is my assumption, like maybe the author wrote the book, but like, because sometimes the marriage is hard, or I'm not even gonna say in marriages, because we hold marriage to a certain weight because it's biblical, but we're gonna say in relationships in general. I think when you come to that point where you ultimately want to please your mate and you're trying to hold on to something, I think it was like her back was against the wall. It went against everything that she believed in, but this is what she wanted. I think she was so scared of losing him, she went against it, and it ended up ultimately leading to her making other decisions that caused her death. And we always have heard the wages of sin eventually leads to death, and it did. It's sad, but I think at that point she chose him, pleasing him over herself. It was to a point where I love this man so much because of our history together, and I really want to make this work. He chose me, he married me, so I want to make sure I'm doing something for him because this is something he really wants. He was adamant about them having that type of relationship, and she went along with it just to please him. I don't think at that point she was thinking about herself, because yes, she had a way out, but I think she was so fearful of losing him, she chose him over her own well-being.
Now keep in mind,
she wasn't fearful of losing him. Go ahead.
Keep in mind now, before he drugged her, she had already mentioned this young man to Paige.
She did.
So this was someone she had been communicating with or started to develop some attraction to before the dinner with the other couple.
True, but her husband had already been in her ear about them having those type of swinging relationships. She never really wanted that. And I'm not making an excuse for it because, like I said, but it's like, this is the realness of relationships. This is like behind the scenes in relations that we don't see. You always see couples and we don't understand the dynamics of the relationship. And I've been putting out there on social media, it's a difference between a relationship and ownership. And when it gets to a point where you feel like you're in an ownership, you allow people to control you and you do things that you don't agree with, but then you get to a point where you're vulnerable. Now you're looking for love in all the wrong places. Now, Toni was very smart. She was very smart. Toni had a different alternative lifestyle, even starting off in the book. She had a way out and she did start to entertain him, but she started to entertain him again because she was missing something at home because her husband's mind was focused on something else that she never really wanted to do. It was all about pleasing him. It's not an excuse for her because she's a full-grown woman and she knew better, but still, everything was geared toward his attention. They always say women cheat emotionally, but men cheat physically. Paige was already cheating emotionally because she wanted what she saw in that young guy, she wanted back in her husband. But her husband was focused on, okay, this is the type of Toni I met. It's like, okay, Toni, look how I met you. So he had already had certain aspirations that he expected from her anyway. It's not right, but it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's just different because that's a swingers relationship. So I don't get the dynamics of it, but people do different things in their relationship.
He trifling, and as a husband, when she expressed that there was something she didn't want to do, he should have left her alone. Period. No excuse for none of it. He shouldn't have drugged her. And if he felt he had to go to the extent to drug her, then he knew she felt strongly about not wanting to do it. All I felt about him was he was trifling.
He violated her.
She should have put her foot down. If she should have made it plain, unequivocally plain to him that I'm not doing this, don't ask me no more, and didn't care about satisfying him. Because even after, and I'm trying to bring back, even after they put the drug, what did she do? Did she do it? After they put the drug in, did she still do it? Or did they go home?
No, they did do it. Yeah, they did.
All night.
Yep,
Yes,
it
they
loosened her
did.
up. She did stuff that, yeah.
And again, when she woke up, she was terrified. So I mean, he knew she didn't want to do that. Again, if he had to go to the extent to drug her, he knew as a husband, as a leader, as somebody who's supposed to love you, he was trifling. And he shouldn't have did it. Point blank period to the end. When she told him and she when she expressed that that was something she was not interested in, he shouldn't have kept pressuring her to do it, let alone drug her to make her do it.
And when she saw how her husband and that woman was carrying on the floor, how that man was carrying on with him, she should have walked on out the club and said, to hell with y'all, and kept going.
True. She should have, because she had a way out. She had a way out, but I think she chose her husband over herself. She didn't take it because
what the scripture said, there's no temptation uncommon to man when God can't provide a way.
Right. He always
was provided.
That's true. He always give a way out, but you know, they always say if we go against the grain, they always say the man is supposed to be the leader. He's supposed to be the head. You're supposed to be submissive to your husband. So it's like you're torn in between the two. You got that good devil on your side, and then you got God. Well, not the good devil, but you got the devil on your side telling you that this is good and this you're supposed to do, and then you got that angel sitting over here where it's giving you that way out. She didn't choose herself. Unfortunately, she chose her husband, but she did have a way out. When she seen all that funny behavior, she should have been woman enough to walk out, but she chose her husband. She felt like she wanted to love him. She wanted to please him.
And you know, that's something that's all too common. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of teaching for women. Matter of fact, the teaching says that you need to be submissive. You know, that foolishness that, you know, my brother was saying the other day we were on there. And it's like, no, and I found myself repeating over and over, the same heaven God has for him, he has for her. The same hell God has for him, he has for her. But society has forced this lie down our throat for centuries, you know, that we are second to them. You know, you need to reverence and honor your husband, even if he's trifling and disrespecting towards you. And I think that as women, doesn't matter the race, as women, period, we have to educate one another, give each other permission to walk away, give each other permission. You know, I had a woman say to me, you know, well, if he died, you'll have to live without him. You know, and sometimes we have to encourage each other, because you know, you do want your marriage to work. You want to make whatever decision it is. You want to do your part, but there's a line in the sand, and we need to teach our young women that it's okay to walk away. It's okay to say no, you know, and mean it, and then turn around and walk away. Demand more for yourself and not accept anything from somebody you're trying to keep that's rejecting you or trying to force you to do things that they know you don't want to do. You know, he didn't have any love for her. None.
This morning, Pastor Dalla ministered on this topic. And he talked about being submissive. That doesn't mean that you allow yourself to be physically, mentally, verbally, sexually abused. Right. So he hit on it this morning, and it was a good message. And he also talked about, you know, the leadership of the husband, you know, and if you're not, if your role, if your actions not lining up to the word of God, then how are you going to lead that household? So, yeah.
I agree, Donna. That's the truth. And I think, and that's what it was missing in the conversation from the other day. Is like people get the roles of submissive wrong, because submissive means we're walking side by side, we're making decisions together. We are supposed to be as one. But often you don't see that in a relationship, because it's like, that's what from the question earlier, is like, what makes a person mature, a man or a woman, morals and values, or what society says. We have this misconception of men want to lead and they want to be the ruler of everything. But once a woman goes against them, to stand up, especially when you have children, you have eyes looking at you. And unfortunately, Toni did too, but she chose to please him. And I really think that she felt special because he chose to marry her from how the situation and everything they met. And that's the misconception in society. And like she said, we really have to start educating on each other on what does submissive mean? What does a successful and happy relationship look like? Meaning everyone's definition is not going to be the same because we all have different personalities. But as women, we have to come to a point where we are united in front. Because you will find men, even when they do wrong, another man is going to give him a high five and make excuses for him. But when it comes to women, we'll tear each other down saying, well, she wasn't doing this, or she wasn't doing this, or she did that. They're not going to focus on what that man did. It's all about what the woman should have did, or she mad, she angry. We have more labels than men. He's going to be okay if he sleeps with a bunch of women where, men cheat anyway. But if a woman does it, she has a label. If a woman is mad, now she's bitter. If a woman is tired, she's angry. If a woman says too much, where she ignorant. If she says anything wrong, defending herself, everything is her and not the man. We'll take up for a man quicker than we are a woman. Well, some women. I'm not going to say all women, but some women.
And we have to change that stereotype that when a woman says those negative things, then we got to tell them the truth. We got to tell them better. Change their way of thinking, give them another way of thinking about things and thinking things through. We can't go along and say, girl, you right. Yeah, no, but have you thought about it this way? Or have you thought about it that way? What makes you feel happy and worth, give you a sense of worth in the marriage? Because, if you are happy in your marriage and stuff, then that's fine. What works for you, works for your family and your household. But if we want to change that negative thinking, then when we hear a woman say that, or we hear a man say that, trying to boost up a man, some wrong he done, then we his way of thinking and let him know, no, that ain't how I go.
Another point that really jumps out to me is this spirit of lust and perversion. There is no satisfying it. I mean, you can't quench it, when it comes down to that demonic level of, sexual perversion. There is no stopping. It just this monster continues to grow and grow and grow, and is never quenched. Is never quenched. And I also wanted to say too, and that's not only true when we, the point of learning your voice, and not only with your husband, but with your family too. We have to learn boundaries in our lives and learn that self-love as it relates to anybody. Mentioning, well, you will have to live if something happened to him, or that child that may be ruling your house, or ruling, you, or that, I don't know, sibling, or whoever, whoever the person may be. There comes a point when we have to learn boundaries in our lives, and we draw a line in the sand, and we say no to whoever it may be.
That's true. I think you saw that relationship between Theo and his mom in the book, because he let us know from the very beginning that his mom, she was a strong, independent woman, because even though they said there's an issue with it, but y'all know what I'm saying. She was strong and independent because she had to be. Her boyfriend or her husband, whatever he was at the time, he walked out. He walked out, left her with 2 kids. She had to put her way back to school, and she took care of them without any help from them. He chose another family over her, so she was pretty much doing it on her own, and that was his plight. He didn't want to see anybody struggle to do what his mom went through. And Theo was kind of wise, because even in the book, when that young girl came and he realized that she was trying to fool him, he had enough sense not to have sex with her where he could catch anything, or better yet, have illegitimate children that he didn't want, because he had a goal set. So Theo was mature, even though we still can't excuse the behavior that he had with his teacher, because their relationship should have never happened. As you said, if they was going to start their relationship, she should have been woman enough to wait till he got out of high school. But unfortunate situations happen. But that was the only part that I did. It's like Theo did have common sense. He was still going to think like a child, because like you said, that sexual perversion is there, and it's not, but sex is a part of life. Sex is a part of relationships. People choose their own passion of what they do with sex, but we do have to change the dynamic of how we view people. Or like I said, we have to draw a line in the sand saying, hey, this is not okay. Like I said, if it's in our families, if it's with our children, within our marriages, we have to set boundaries. And I don't think that's the thing that we do. We were saying in the last conversation, like, when do we get to a point of how do we help each other as a community? How do we help each other as women? Where is that line drawn in saying what is no longer okay? Why do we permit everything to be okay? Now everything is okay. Instead of being adults, we are busy still babying. We have baby down society. They can get to a point where we just gonna give them a participation trophy just to make them feel good. There's no winner and losers anymore. Everything is just baby down. It's hard to be strong and independent because if you're that, you're angry, you have a title. But as long as you're being sympathetic to everything, it's okay.
Well, women, we done lost our fighting spirit. Some people, they get tired and lose. So what now?
Yeah, I think we definitely lost. So it's like, if you're running a race, well, now let's just say you're selling clothes. I like that outfit. I'm not gonna buy. Coretta is telling it, so I don't want it. I'm gonna buy from Leora, and I don't like Leora. I'm gonna buy it just because Coretta, just to get on Leora's nerves, to make her feel some type of way because she's beating Coretta. If we would support each other more, I think if I could call a sister and be like, I'm having such a hard time, I don't know what to do. Instead of me being that listening shoulder, that listening ear that she can lean on and talk to and get some strong sound advice without going and tell Eric, Sally, Sue, and John that I just talked to Tasha and she going through this, and that. I think if we were a community that really stood by each other, a lot of relationship issues, society issues wouldn't happen. But we have no one to turn to.
Yeah, we have to be that change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely have to be that change. And again, there are 3 major learning institutions: home, church, and in school, our actual school. That's where we go to learn. You're going to learn it at home, the truth, or you're going to learn it at church, or you're going to learn it at school. And unfortunately, all 3 places need a lot of work. But the change begins with us, with us as an individual, and really, really broadcasting this thing, allowing people to know, look, it's okay to say no. It's okay, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You're going to make it. You're going to make it, so, and even doing, Coretta's Table for Queen, it matters because you never know, who just so happened to run across it and hear it and know that they can do better, and it's okay.
Remember, we was talking once before when we was talking about in the last book, as women empower women, like, are we prejudged as women? And I remember Donna was saying, when she goes to work, women judge her from how she dresses and carries herself. And like Tom saying, we stereotype each other. Instead of getting to know each other and building each other up, we stereotype. We make the wrong thing okay. A woman can be disrespectful and saying something about another woman and we'll make it okay. But you find one that she wants to be sensible. If she has a feeling a certain type of way, she's wrong or she's more passionate. We make too many of the wrong things okay. That's even with this book. You'll find someone that's going to agree to it, and people where love is love. He was 18. They'll make it okay because love is one of the biggest things everybody in society is looking for, whether it's relationship-wise, and we don't focus on self-love. They'll make a relationship okay, but just because they'll make excuses. Well, he was 18, it's okay.
Yeah. And like I said, we have given up the fight. We have no more fight in us. And, everything has just become a norm. It's just a norm. Either you conform to it or you be transformed from it. Now, are we at the point of, are we talking today about Theo's mother?
Yes, that was my next question. What does everyone think of Theo's mom? Yeah, what was your opinion of Theo's mom?
Undercover H. I don't, she was doing exactly what she was preaching against. She just didn't know. She just didn't know he knew what was going on.
Yeah. Exactly. I was gonna say double standard, but it's the same as what Miss Doris is saying.
Mm-hmm. She was a hypocrite.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was a hypocrite.
Yeah.
If she was living,
and he just, and I think if she hadn't tried to be so hard on Paige, talking about Paige and talking about this and that, he never would have come out the bag on her. But he had to let her know, okay, since you talking about her, let me run down what I know about you.
Yes.
And did he run her down?
It broke.
Oh yeah, it broke her down.
It broke.
And
Did
it's
that
so
surprise
close.
anyone?
I was
Did
gonna
what
say,
now?
Sorry.
go ahead, you
I
got
would
it.
say yes, because I wouldn't have thought that it was Theo mom that the husband was cheating with. So yes, it was a surprise to find out that she was one of the ladies.
She wasn't just
Yep,
one, she
I
was
was
one of the
definitely
main ladies.
surprised.
Yeah, that's why I said one of the ladies. Yeah.
I
But
was
she was
definitely surprised.
Yeah. But see, it was what we were just saying. It's society. From society's standpoint, she's on the outside. She's being strong. She's raising this boy proper. But they never would have thought that she was causing havoc on someone else's relationship. It surprised me as well when I first read the book. I'm like, wow. And then for him to know it, because remember in the beginning, he was very respectful of his mother. And you would just think because she's going against someone that he loves, but that was not the reason why he was angry. He was angry because his mother was not living in her own truth, and she never knew that he knew.
But Paige didn't know that his mom was one of the women, her husband. She didn't know. But you know that the mom kind of mentioned it when Paige was at the clinic. Mm-hmm. And she was kind of talking about she was involved with a man that, had a wife, and he didn't care about her, nor did he care about his wife. She just didn't tell Paige that she was involved with, Craig.
Mm-hmm. And she had an abortion for him too.
Yeah. But she was so angry at Paige because, she wanted to be the one that Theo, she wanted to be the one that provided for Theo and loved him the most, and the one that he would always come to for advice and be there for. So that's why she was so hurt and so upset with Paige, because there was somebody else that Theo really loved other than her.
Right. Because with all the other girls that Theo dealt with, he still needed his mom for his advice. And you know how sometimes in a relationship, I have daughters, so I don't know if I experienced that part of losing a son. It's like she felt like she was losing her son because this woman provided everything for him. And I mean, it was nothing that he really needed from his mom, but he still loved and respected her despite his secrets that he knew, and he still needed his mom, but she could not respect the fact that he did have a woman of wisdom versus a girl. Because you know how, like I said, the Bible tells us a man is supposed to leave home and cleave to his wife. But you'll also find men, when they leave home, they still have to go back and ask their mom for everything and have a woman. But I still expect my mom to do everything. Versus you find some of them that leave home and they actually do have good women, but they'll still have to reach back and get advice from their mom, but they don't need much from their mom. But in this situation, Theo was all about Paige, and his mom could not handle that. So that's where her anger came from. It didn't come because he was dating an older woman. I think Theo could have messed with an older woman, and as long as he was messing with her and he didn't have that love, I think his mom would have been okay. I think she was kind of jealous.
So now let's go to Cortland, the principal, Cortland and Dory. So were you all surprised on that?
Yes, I was surprised. I was truly surprised about that one.
But I guess that part makes sense because certain secrets you don't want to come out.
True.
So that means that if you have secrets that you don't want to come out because you're going to be embarrassed and you're going to be like so shame, it's going to cause depression, a lot of attention, negative attention that you don't want in your life, then you shouldn't put other people out there like that.
You shouldn't, but you know what? That's a cover up, but that's why certain people do it. That's even with social media now. People do so much picking on social media because it covers what they doing. So they feel like if I put this out, nobody's paying attention to what I'm doing wrong. Let me point out what the other person is doing wrong. So I think that's why they did it. Let me point out what this couple's doing wrong because what we're doing is more taboo. We're not going to be accepted. So let's clear up this secret and put out their secret so no one can bring out ours out the closet. It's just like a scapegoat. We see that all the time. Even with the presidents, they always bring out the president's dirty secret to cover their own. It's a way to deflect. But I agree. They should have just left that alone. But
yeah. And when he was so excited to catch them and to get her back for, what she had done to him, he didn't think that through. And he knew he was with Dorian. And I know Dorian was probably a nervous wreck, but Cortland was the rest of that night and the rest of that trip. He was in his happy place. And he didn't think about the consequences for him, if she decided to tell it. And when she did it in that nice little, I got you way, he didn't know what to do.
But that Bible scripture, he said, he will prepare a table. He will prepare a table.
He a long one, wide. Yeah.
And it also opened the door for Dorian to tell the other secret that he knew.
It was so many secrets. It was just so many.
Possible. Dorian still got back at her.
True, but isn't it life though? You go tit for tat, but everybody has a secret.
Everybody has a secret. And even though Craig was upset and he had gotten the secretary pregnant, was she the secretary of the school?
It was somebody. I think she was the secretary or the counselor.
Yeah, the white secretary.
Yes.
He was upset. He was just, when he found saw Theo at that house, I don't know if he was upset because she was with another man, but he was upset because she was with this kid, his player, one of his students, her student. And I think that just really took him to a place, but he had sense enough, as low down as he was, he put that to the side and talked to Theo about what his future could look like. So he really never cared over it. It was all about himself.
Well, he got over that quick because
now that really hurt. I think it hurt him for a minute there.
Yeah, but it didn't hurt him long because he knew that Theo, his name was always going to be associated with Theo as his high school coach.
Yeah.
So he was willing to say that little stuff he doing, and he knew he had been with the boy mama. The boy just didn't know. So he knew he had done a lot of stuff. So he knew his name being associated with Theo was way more than that little affair he feel they were having that wasn't going to last. So he didn't.
He said he wasn't gonna tell it. He had made up in his mind he wasn't gonna tell it, even though she was begging him, and he didn't even, he had no plans of sharing what he had saw.
No, because the only thing it shows you just how selfish he was. His ultimate goal was like that, him looking good, because like I said, his name was always gonna be associated with Theo. Theo was everybody's meal ticket. The only person that see Theo as a meal ticket was Paige. She actually did love him, whether it was right or wrong. But everybody else seen him as a way out. It was a meal ticket. He had a powerful name. So that's why I said to Theo had something to lose messing with Paige, because there was so many women wanting him. It's just the one that everybody least expected, Mrs. Patrick. She got him.
But he, even though we thought he had a lot to lose, he didn't lose anything though. You know, when we first started talking about this book, you know, I shared that they were going to come at her because she was a person in authority over him. So it was going to boost his ego, and it did, because his friend Will was like, "You were with her, you know, you were with the girl." Only other person was what her name, Trista, Tess.
Yeah, the little younger Trista.
Yeah, she was really hurt, but it didn't do anything for Theo. It didn't do nothing negative towards Theo. It was her that got all the bad, I guess, got all the negative attention. It was her.
But you have to look at it though, he really loved her. So all that negativity, he took that on too, because he didn't want to hurt her. Because that was one of the things that he would, remember in the book, he promised her that he was not going to hurt her. So that kind of hurt him too. Even when her friend died, when she didn't let him be there, he still stood up and came to that her and sat in the back just to let her know, hey, I'm here.
And we talked about him being 18. Well, we know she shouldn't have had a relationship with him being that he was her student. But because he was 18, that saved her from going to jail. And she had to resign, but that kept her from going to jail.
She had to resign, but you have to look at it. She was looking at still being with a millionaire. And I mean, at the end of the book, she kept his child. She was going to have a child by him. And he didn't leave her. He honored his promise to her. He was still with her. The relationship was forbidden and it was not right, but he still stepped up and he was still a man to her.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does everyone think about the ending of the book?
You know, I thought I was happy. I really was happy in the end. Engagement ring, help. He wanted her to escort him to the draft, help him buy his first house. He wanted her to move in, wanted her to marry him. She told him about in 7 months. He was going, I mean, actually, I was happy. I was happy about it. I was pleased with it. Seemed like everybody that involved was happy. So why should I be mad? Yeah. If they happy, I'm happy too.
I like the ending. I like that she ended up keeping the baby.
Yeah, he did what a lot of adult men wouldn't do. He did the right thing, even though the relationship was forbidden. He did the right thing.
Yes.
I just know after
her mother.
Go on,
Her mother did make me think that he had drowned and got killed.
Yeah.
When she saw Paige at the clinic, I got so hurt. I said, no, why they killed the boy off?
I was hurt too. I thought it was true also.
They did make it seem like he had died, but he didn't die.
Yeah. But if the mother hadn't come in there, Paige probably would have went on through with it. Because she is Michelle, and then lady knew, you know, that saved that situation.
So it goes to show that God will make the wrong things right. True enough, the only thing she had to worry about was a job title, but it was a job title. They met up under unforeseen circumstances, but it worked out in the end. And I honestly feel it worked out because she did have a genuine heart. She did truly want to be loved, and she didn't look at him as of everything that she can gain from him. Because he actually gained more from her because he had a sense of peace with her. He knew everybody else wanted him for something, but the only thing she wanted from him is love. Everybody else wanted a part of him. It's like it was an ownership. The coach, it was an ownership. Not his mom. His mom just wasn't ready to let him go. The other girl, we already know she was in it for the end, like his friends was telling him. Everybody wanted a piece of Theo, but the only thing she wanted, she just fell in love and she just wanted love from Theo.
Yeah.
Happy endings are always nice.
That's just a book where the story ends in favor of the teacher and the student, but we know in other instances it don't even go well.
That's true. And I hope nobody take this as like, okay, no, it's a book and it just shows you that in life you do have happy endings. But I think and then she gained self-love as well. She did all that cosmetic surgery to make herself love herself, but she ended up truly having self-love for herself. She had to figure out who she was as a woman. And I think as women, when we go through terrible breakups or even hard times in our lives, trouble in our jobs, whatever aspect, we truly have to learn to love ourselves and try to find unity with ourselves first.
Yes.
Well, all's well that ends well. But and the fly. The fly said some things that I really was laughing. He said it wasn't a fly that you find in mess on dead bodies and stuff like that. It was a fly class. It was the fly made a good statement.
Yeah, the fly was so serious.
But serious.
You do know they said flies are symbolic. Now you have to just look at different definitions, but they said some flies are symbolic, meaning that you have to let old things go, that you have to let dead things heal. And then they said also flies can mean abundance because they bring in something. But I mean, it just depends on how you look at it. So this particular fly brought some abundance, and he was letting Paige know it was time to let her husband go because he wasn't no earthly good, none.
Well, since reading this book, I've killed every fly that I've seen. So I don't know if they were pleasant. I just didn't want them flying in my bedroom.
Flies are bad this summer.
Yeah.
But overall, it was a good read when you get past the scenes and everything. It was a good read because those scenes took your imagination to another place. I know it took mine to another place. But you know, but it was a good read.
I guess it's one of them things you never can judge a book by its cover, and a fly either. All right, ladies, we are going to end it here. Next week, what I do want to do, I want to do a recap of all the books that we have read so far, a comparison and contrasting. I thank you all for logging on, and we have been introduced to a new book, but I also want everybody to decide on any other books. So if you have any other books, please just drop them in the chat and let me know. Thanks everyone for logging on. Thank you also, Miss McGee, for new person logging on. I appreciate your commentary. Hope you decide to come back.
I will be back. I've been so dang on busy. I'm gonna start setting an alarm so I can check in every time.
Okay. And Coretta, when